Priyanka, just 1 second. I'll give you a go ahead.
Sure.
Great.
Hello and welcome to the third speaker session in our series Agri India Meets, happening as a part of the ongoing Agri India Hackathon, India's largest innovation challenge. Agri India Meet intends to foster dialogue around various topics concerning Indian agriculture with policymakers, startups, entrepreneurs, industry experts, and other stakeholders. In the last two sessions, we explored the future of farm mechanization and recent trends in post harvest and food technology. In today's session, we would be interacting with the expert on the topic farm to fork, market linkages, supply chain, and logistics. I would now request Dr. Neeru Bhushan, CEO Pusa Krishi, to share more about Agri India Hackathon and also formally start today's discussion. Here to
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Thank you, Priyanka. Now, I'm really very happy to have you all of you here, and I welcome on behalf of myself and on behalf of ICAR, IARI. And you know that as the Priyanka has shared that these Agri India Meets is a platform for dialogue and discussion regarding the recent trends, developments, opportunities, and challenges in the agriculture sector. And it is a part of the a bigger program which is Agri India Hackathon, and which was being launched by Honorable Agriculture Minister on 31st of the December. So I'll be taking you through regarding the Agri India Hackathon, what it is all about. Yeah. So the program was being launched with the aim to build the smart agriculture ecosystem in India. And we are planning to have, we are hoping to see some of the few new instant, faster, frugal innovation, as well as to nurture the innovative minds so that we can get some of the out of box solution for the last mile reach and high impact, as I have already shared, the Agri India Meet is to facilitate dialogue between the different stakeholders like innovators, startup, industry expert, financial institution, and policymaker to create enabling environment for the sector. During this Agri India Hackathon, we have identified 5 focus areas. First is mechanization and farming and allied activities, where we would like to see some of the innovation in hill agriculture, horticulture, protected agriculture. In fact, we are also eager to see some of the solution for gender-friendly small farm mechanization, including powered multifunctional equipment. And if we can get some of the technologies which are add-on and cost-effective, so really it will be really very, very great. And another second focus area is, this is, I think a youngster will be very happy to contribute in this area, precision agriculture, including application of sensors, WSN, ICT, artificial intelligence, where we would like to see some of the solution for monitoring and management of water quality, soil fertility, soil health, and crop growth and health. And in fact, because we would like to see some of the innovation in the agriculture allied sector, livestock farming and aquaculture. Third is very, very important focus area is supply chain and agriculture logistics. We would like to see some of the innovation in blockchain technology for traceability of agri produce from farm to fork, cost-effective sensor-based real-time technologies, and monitoring of storage and transport system, and IT-based agriculture logistics, including custom hiring services. Then fourth focus area is post-harvest. If we can get some of the solution regarding environmental friendly, cost-effective mobile technology at farm gate for processing and value addition, as well as functional food, ethnic, alternate, plant-based food and consumer products. Then last but not the least is waste to wealth and green agriculture, green energy in agriculture. So if we can get some of the solution ex situ and in situ management of agri residues, you know that it is a very big problem, and Delhi is not a place to live for 2 months due to this problem. So we are really very excited to see some of the solution in this area and innovative products from the agri residue. So total is 17 problem statement, but if you can see that each word itself is in a problem statement or a domain, because uh, to map whatever is in your mind. So these problem statements are really, really very broad. So, so that you can get enough space to express yourself. Another is the deadline is the 20th of January, and we would like to give 1 lakh rupees as a cash prize for 24 participants or for 24 winners. This is just a token amount, but beyond that, you'll be eligible to get the incubation support in any of the 29 RABIs, which are the incubators, which has been established under RKY Raftar scheme of Ministry of Agriculture. And you will also get, because during the hackathon, we have created a network of around 40 industry partners as well as the financial institutions. So you'll be getting the backing up from these industry partners as well as the financial institution. You will be getting an opportunity for the pilot plant, pilot opportunity, field trial opportunity, as well as the mentoring support from academia as well as industry mentors. So it's one-stop solution for everything. So that's how you will be getting, and your application will be evaluated based on the novelty of the idea, stage of development, scalability, technical and financial feasibility, and your expertise, your team, whether you'll be able to execute this or not. So these are few criteria where your application will be evaluated. Now, I think I have covered this. Now, if we talk about that, today is the third meet, and again, 4 meets are also remaining. So next meet will be on 18th of January, and then the first round result will be announced on 27th of January, and then semi-final round for 3 days will be organized from 3rd to 5th of February, and finalist will be announced on 18th February, and then grand finale will be on 17th of February. So that's how the program will go. And now I have already mentioned about the Agri India Meet, and Priyanka has mentioned that first was organized on 30th of December, and the last meet was organized on 8th of January. Today we are here. So we would like to now on this occasion, and I would like to formally welcome our keynote speaker, Professor Ramesh Chandji, who is a renowned Indian agriculture economist and a policymaker of repute, and currently working as a member Niti Aayog Government of India. Over the last 3.5 decades, he has been actively involved in food and nutritional security related agriculture issues. He is currently responsible for India's vision, strategy, and action agenda for the agriculture sector, including the government's flagship agriculture program, like the doubling the farmers' income. So once again, I thank you very much for being with us and taking out time from your busy schedule for this very important meet focusing on marketing linkage and supply chain related aspect. I'm sure that all the attendees might be eagerly waiting to listen your thoughts on the latest agriculture transformation and policies. Sir, please.
Thank you, Niru. I'm very happy to see the activities which you have undertaken under this initiatives, and I feel it is very, very important to give encouragement to right kind of people who promote innovation in different areas of agriculture. That is what is needed most in agriculture today. So let me speak a little bit about the topic which you have listed for me, this marketing, and which is also I think a hot topic for the entire country, particularly in Northwest India. So agriculture, as you all know, there are two main stages of agriculture. One we can say pre-harvest, another is post-harvest. So pre-harvest, including technology, inputs, some of those you have already covered. Today we will be covering this post-harvest, which include marketing, which also include value addition, which to some extent should also include reduction in wastage of food and agriculture, and which is also very, very important from the point of view of food processing industry and from the point of view of employment for rural youth. If I just look at the broad numbers on this marketing, I think that is important to set the context. So overall for the agriculture, you will just find that around 20% of the produce is kept by the farmer for their own use, for their feed requirement, for seed requirement, and rest 80% is disposed of. It varies from commodity to commodities. In some commodity, it may be even 99.9%. Some commodity, it could be as low as 45 or 50% in subsistence agriculture. But this is the average, that around 20% is retained at farm and 80% just comes to the market. So whatever comes to the market, it has different type of users. We have human consumers, we have industry as a end users. So I think you have chosen mainly the human consumers, that farm to fork, how it proceeds and what kind of changes we can bring there. So again, those who know a little bit marketing, they know that marketing is basically to create three utilities: space utility, time utility, and form utility. So these are the basic jobs of marketing. And since whether produce move from producer to consumer over period, all those things, it involves different transactions. And as you will be aware that each transaction will have some cost, and each transaction will also have some sort of margins. So as we move from one stage to another stage, you will just find that both cost and margin keep adding. And this is how by the time it reaches the fork or end users, the price turned out to be different than what was the price in the first transactions. Then I don't know why this has come. Then you see the welfare of producer, welfare of consumer, and impact on economy is determined by how efficiently these transactions are done. If these transactions are not done very efficiently, you will find there will be adverse effect on producer, there will be adverse effect on consumer, even economy will not be benefited. So therefore, the efficiency in these transactions is very, very important. So when we talk of efficiency in these transactions, then you will find that 7-8 factors will come there, that how that efficiency is determined. One is regulation, then there is infrastructure, physical infrastructure, institutional structure, and a couple of other things for which there is no time. Maybe when panel discussion will happen, I will take some of those. So these transactions, how efficiently they are done, the first and foremost factor is regulations. you see, now there is a agreement throughout the world that whatever the nature of economic activity, neither laissez-faire, that you completely leave it to market forces, neither that work efficiently, nor complete control work efficiently. So there is something in between which need to be adopted. That what is that which is best in terms of regulation. And we know that in the case of agriculture, the main regulation have been two. One is that APMC regulation, and another has been this some sort of what was earlier called contract farming act kind of things. So as I just said that this role of this regulation is dynamic. It is not fixed that you have one set of regulation and that will be working for all times to come. As technology change, as infrastructure change, as nature of demand change, as paying capacity of people change, as communication change, you will just find that that whatever regulation you feel is very healthy at one point of time, it become unhealthy at another point of time. So there is a need to change this regulation. Just in simple words, that if your road is not very broad, if traffic is not segregated, maybe you would like to keep a speed limit of 40 kilometers. But when you have two-way roads, there is a broad road, then this speed limit need to be increased from 40 to 90 kilometers. So same thing apply to the regulation that depending upon infrastructure. This is one example of infrastructure that as infrastructure change and as new type of institutions comes into market, new kind of e-commerce comes into market, fintech is there. So you just find that then you need to make changes in regulation, whether it is APMC Act, whether it is Contract Farming Act, or any other act. I have only singled out these two acts. So briefly, what is this situation of agriculture which necessitates that if we want efficient movement of produce from farm to fork, and if we want to enhance welfare of both the farmer as well as one who use fork, but we need to do. For that, we also need to look at what kind of changes Indian agriculture is undergoing, and then link it to those kind of changes. So if we look at APMC Act, which was brought during 60s and 70s by all states and union territories, except state of Kerala, Jammu and Kashmir, and Manipur. And later on, as we all know, that Bihar scrapped it. So all other states, they had some sort of APMC Act. So that act at that time really brought regulation into the market. It upgraded the level of the markets. But after that, like if you see after 2006, you find there is zero growth in number of agriculture markets. Whether you take main yard or you add sub yard, but I had data when I wrote paper on market, last paper in 2014. I just found that after 2006, the growth rate in market infrastructure was less, that was zero, whereas growth rate in output we all know is 3%. So it is not that we had created infrastructure to cater to the need of next 30 years. So we didn't require improvement. And we know that except some states, at other places, farmer had to travel 30 kilometers to reach market and like that. So there was need for improvement in this market infrastructure, but it has not been improving. This is the one factor. Then the second factor is that if you look at the demand side factors, there is a lot of diversification. The consumer behavior has been shifting in large number of respects, but our production people are not able to come to terms with that. Let me share one startling statistics with you. If we have data on consumption up to 11-12, in 11-12, an urban consumer spend more money on beverages and spices than on all the cereals. Imagine how much change in consumption pattern is happening. So you can just see that if you keep producing cereals, then per capita intake of cereal is declining, population growth is only 1%. So what will be fate of cereal in that kind of situation? Then another thing is that we have also been hearing that there is agrarian distress, especially after 1995, when government started publishing data on suicides. Farmer suicide have been singled out for studies. You don't have any study on suicide by housewives, suicide by IT people, suicide by others, but farmer suicide have been picked up and sensationalized. Nobody bothered unless I pointed out in one of my paper that it is unfortunate that suicides are happening, but tendency of non-farmer to commit suicide is much higher than what a tendency of a farmer to commit suicide. But some people may not agree, like Dr. Swaminathan, he said, why farmers should commit suicide? Farmers are very strong people. Even if one farmer is committing suicide, he feels that it is a matter of concern. But the point which I want to make is that 95 onward, lot of literature on agrarian distress. And since then, we have been talking about this rise in agrarian distress. Now, if we want to address this agrarian distress, obviously the reasons are that the present system, there is something wrong with the present system, which is causing stress on the farmer, which are forcing them to take this extreme steps. So unless we change the system, it is very difficult to address the problem. But problem with our mindset is that we want a cure without taking medicine and we want solution of the problem without changing anything. So that's how that agrarian distress is there. But if you want to make the changes to address it, then you just find that some people are not comfortable with that. So imbalance in production, I have already talked. And third, rather two more reasons which I would like to share with you. I mentioned 11-12 reason in my working paper, which is available on Niti site, that why government of India had to undertake these reforms. But other two factors are very, very important. India's population growth has come down to now 1%. If we take into account increase in per capita income, the total growth in food demand in India is not going to be more than 2.5%. But growth rate in agriculture, despite talk of technology fatigue, etc., is more than 3.6%. As technology has already started going to Eastern India, and we are seeing the result that even in Bihar, rice productivity is increasing by 7% a year. So Bihar, Odisha, Assam, I will call them sleeping states, like we call that sleeping giants. So they were our sleeping giants as far as agriculture is concerned. But with this BGRI bringing green revolution to Eastern India, things are changing there. And I feel that in future growth of Indian agriculture, much support will come from that region. And I have no reason to believe that in future our agriculture will see any deceleration in growth rate. I don't see any chance of deceleration in trend growth rate. For 1 year, 2 year situation may be different. So if domestic production continue to increase by 3.6%, demand is increasing by 2.5% or less, where you sell this difference of 1%. Either you allow stock to accumulate, like we already have 80-90 million ton of food grain, We have already 6 million ton of sugar, which will increase to 10 million ton at the end of this sugar season, and let country pay for it. We are paying heavily for it, but we are not realizing because that money goes indirectly from all of us. So we are not realizing it. But if we have to sell that in overseas market, we need efficient marketing. Right now, our cost of logistics is close to 16%. And our calculations are, unless it is brought down to 8%, we can't compete with other major agriculture countries. And you can say that we will give subsidy and all those things, which is again, I will say, pressure on fiscal sources, and also it can lead to another war of subsidies. If other country feel that we are freely violating WTO commitment and giving any type of subsidy to push our export, then they will also be free to do that. Then that may be more damaging for India because we are exporting more than what we are importing. So if we have to ensure that we are able to export 20 to 25% of incremental output, which according to my calculation, we need to do it. Otherwise, either stock will build or domestic price will collapse. Then we require improvement in marketing efficiency. That is very, very bad. We need to squeeze the chain, we need to compress the chain, we need efficient value chain. That is very, very important. So I feel that there are adequate reasons which have been calling that when the produce move from farm to fork, whether that fork is Indian or that fork is in Malaysia or that fork is anywhere else. So when the produce move from farm level to end users, we really need to make changes in our marketing system. Sometime back, I also compared that where are the inefficiency in Indian agriculture, why we are not able to compete in some areas. But I found at that time, it is a bit old data. As I am getting old, my references are also getting old. I am not able to do the recent study on this. But that time, what I found was that I did that study for oil seeds. That in India, the average cost of production of most of the oil seed was less than what was the cost of production of oil seed in other major producing country. But when it came to processing and marketing, our cost was much, much higher than other countries. So I concluded in my paper there that India is not inefficient producer of oil seed, but India is inefficient producer of India is inefficient supplier and processor of oil seed and oil. So all those things are part of market. I think it was in that background that during COVID period, this government thought that there is a challenge, let us convert that challenge into opportunities. Also at many places, lot of complaints from the farmer that since they are required to take their produce to marketing, there is a COVID danger and all those things. So it should be, conditions should be relaxed for them to sell their produce, and wherever those relaxations were given, we had very smooth kind of marketing. So the lesson from all these was that India need to do these reforms, and then these new theory acts were brought on which now Supreme Court has also taken cognizance, and unfortunately they have entered into a controversy, but background will remain same. This is the background. Even I spoke to some of the farmers leaders that would you like to leave agriculture, maintain status quo, or what you would like? They said, no, we want these laws to be replaced, repealed, and new laws to come. So they also feel that there is need to have a new kind of regulation in agriculture, but not the way these regulations have been brought. One last thing I would like to calculate, APMC and contract farming thing. I have already talked that how the contract farming has been confused with corporate farming, and it has been sold like that. And I also do not feel very much concerned that why our farmer have not been properly understanding this thing. I was exchanging my views with one of my friend in Washington DC after the protest in US. So I just told him that when American educated and very advanced people can be fooled to believe that the election has been rigged against the ruling party, why our innocent farmer can't be misled to believe that their land will be snatched by corporate, APMC kind of, this contract farming kind of thing. So this is how I think democracy works. Some price for free speech and freely speaking is there. So, but I hope that after all this churning, something good will emerge, and we will be able to really ensure that there is efficient movement of produce from farm to fork. So thank you, Neeru, for making me part of this important event. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I'm really very happy to learn from you the few points that, like, you have very clearly mentioned that there is a need for the regulation, and the regulation is a very dynamic process. And when the situation gets changed, it needs to be changed properly, as well as for mentioning in a very simple way for make us understand regarding the market efficiencies and how they are going to change, and with some few very good examples, the changes in the marketing system. So we will now, I think we will, I would like to invite Mr. Jagdish Sunkarji, who is a moderator for today's session. And I would like to give a very brief introduction for Mr. Jagdish Sunkarji. He is an IIM Bangalore alumni and director, Kanak Dhara Agriculture Innovation. And he is a person of repute with wide expertise in various domains of agriculture, from technology commercialization to processing and marketing linkage. He plays a key role for innovation in startup across agri value chain and help making them sustainable. Now I invite Mr. Jagdish Sunkar for moderating the session.
Thank you, ma'am. It's an honor to be here. Thank you, Dr. Rameshan. I will just take 2 minutes and prod the other panel members to speak. Also, please permit me the liberty not to introduce and speak much about them, because they are legends in the sense that they have almost every single person of them deep hands-on experience. So, I just was looking at this whole event called Agri Hackathon, and a visualization occurred to me. If I were to boil water in a vessel at 100 degrees centigrade, it will boil and evaporate. But the same thing, if I were to put it in a tight cylinder and just give it a well-engineered piston, it becomes motive power, a steam engine. And in this program, what I'm seeing is that we're able to bring through various stakeholders, the policymakers, the corporate, the investors, the startups, the academia, all this. So I really see a wonderful internal combustion engine happening here. I can see a whole lot of opportunities and development happening here. And what we are really addressing here today, in my own understanding, are wicked problems. Wicked not in the sense that they're evil, but wicked that, even defining the question becomes an issue. Forget about the solutions. Problems are not simple, solutions are not simple, and all of these need second order thinking. What is second order thinking? First, let's look at first order thinking. At a very simple level, the earth looks flat. It looks like the sun goes around the earth. But when you look deeper, it's not so. So agricultural markets are very similar. I don't think there are simple solutions. Let's discover, let's look through. May I invite Mr. Sagar Kaushik to take the lead, please? As a corporate, what has been your experience with Farm to Fork projects? I know UPL has done a lot of things. Sir, please. Please unmute yourself.
So first of all, good evening, and Professor Neeru, thank you for giving me the opportunity to get associated with this program, consisting of especially the young people, with a lot of aspirations for future. And after listening to Professor Ramesh Chandra, which for me is not just the listening, but always an experience to listen to him, the way he communicates, what he thinks he speaks, and creates new themes for the agriculture. And so, sir, it's always exciting to be part of the panel where you are also present. So thanks also from my side. Now, as far as to the audience is concerned, from the corporate point of view, I would like to mention that the industry sees the agriculture in our country, that there is already a good deal of transformation happening. I give you an example that sitting here, if you close your eyes, really, if you close your eyes and think about Andhra Pradesh for agriculture, what is the first thing comes to your mind? It may be chilies, it may be cotton, it may be tobacco, it may be also sugarcane. But if you put the value, gross value like the GDP, gross value added for agriculture, you will be surprised that none of these 4 or 5 crops, they contribute to the 82% of the GVA of Andhra Pradesh. They are all within the 18% only. And what has changed in the last less than 10 years, that the aquaculture, horticulture, dairy, poultry, that has completely taken over, and that constitute 82% of the entire GVA of Andhra Pradesh, which is much higher than Punjab. Punjab GVA is 93,000 crores. Andhra Pradesh is 1,86,000 crores, while the land mass for agriculture covered is more or less similar. Punjab has 99% irrigated area, while Andhra Pradesh has only 50%. So I think in the last 10 years, this is a major transformation which has happened. I have just put the data together. I think we all have a feel about it. When the agriculture authorities in Andhra Pradesh, they are talking, I mean, they talk like the corporates, and they mean business. So I think it is not one farmer. They make a lot of contribution, definitely, but the whole ecosystem is made so conducive with the technologies, with the data, etc., that the country moves. Professor Ramesh Chandra mentioned about the Northeast or the East India. I think in a couple of years, when we will put this data together, I think it's going to get a huge positive surprise for the nation, that what these sleeping giants, they could produce, because we have to just unlock their potential. So I think the second part which I want to mention as again the industry, that for very long time we always treated agriculture to be a different industry from the food industry. So there is a food industry and there is an agriculture industry. So same thing, vertical difference, even in the ministries. There is a food ministry, there is an agriculture ministry. So therefore, we always, I think the perception is that they are different from each other. Their requirements are different, etc. Now, I think this change also is taking place. And this change is not really top-down, not necessarily. But I think there are a lot of players who are making these barriers disappear. That starting from the quality of soil to the food quality which the consumer is consuming, I think this whole barrier is actually dissolving, and there is a value chain which is evolving. And therefore, for the young people, they should always look at the value chain. They are not part of agriculture. They are part of the full value chain. And the farmer is becoming aspirational, and the consumer of the food is becoming aspirational. And if you build your models, if you build your technology and the business models, innovative models based on the aspirational aspect, I think you have a different vision than the normal thing. So I think you need to consider that this value chain is much longer. It has several elements, and you need to be looking at each element in the form of a hardware or a software. Hardware could be a pack house in the system, and software will be the data. And data is helpful for the forecasting, whether you forecast the demand for the food, or you are forecasting the weather, or you are forecasting the pest, or you are forecasting the other systems. So I think the 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 value chain need to be in the mind, that if we are working as part of hackathon is part of the value chain, and that is how you should relate uh, this the interaction part becomes much more knowledge oriented.
Thank you very
So
much, sir. I mean, that was brilliant to know how much data is changing. And many times we are so obsessed with our technology ideas, but not really looking at data available about what situation we're addressing.
yeah,
If I could take the liberty, sir, I'll.
yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Sorry to interrupt you. Okay, I just wanted to invite Suraj Saste. Okay, he's an entrepreneur. He's really worked on the other end of the value chain. Okay, Suraj, what has been your experience? What are some of the challenges you have faced in value chain operations? You have big brand names with you like Swiggy and who not. Go ahead, please.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Jagdishi, for the introduction. Thank you, Nirumam, for the platform to be able to speak and share my thoughts with such esteemed guests and the panelists here present. Rameshji, I think I loved what you said. It was something which was very, very relevant for the youth who's watching you. I hope I'm audible. Just Jagdishji, give me a nudge if I'm not in the middle. Sagar sir, thank you for sharing such crucial amount of data. I think you've rightly pointed out the way we all should be thinking of solutions which can be solved with the technology and so many other things out there. So I'm from a city called Pune, Maharashtra. My grandpa was a hardcore farmer who owned less than 5 acres. So you can call them marginal farmers category. And he worked all his life. Nothing changed, right, in his lifetime. And it's only when my dad came out of the village, studied BSc chemistry, and that's how things changed for me. And I am such a privileged one sitting here across the board and sharing my knowledge and experiences. And what I have seen in agriculture is last 20,000 years, which I'm taking a broad data here, is we have changed everything over the course. The way we drink our water, the way we consume food, we invented agriculture for more than 20,000 years or more. The way we dress, the way we communicate with each other with the help of offline and online technologies and per se. But very little things changed in the form of agriculture. I mean, it is still the same way we do farming, which was 20,000 years ago. We used to plant it with very little amount of data. The plantation was used to be done. The harvesting is still being done at a much traditional method still. I mean, whether it's rice, gehu, which I see myself whenever I had a time to spend at farms while having my Diwali or summer vacations. And what the challenge I've seen is, as Sagar sir mentioned, that in last decade the changes Andhra Pradesh had seen, I think we all need to start looking at the data. And interestingly, I mean, I know that the farmers are still at a very, the farthest end at the means of data and technology. I think here, with the help of, Pusa Krishi and so many others, what government is trying to do is bridge that gap and provide them with that kind of visibility, which is going to lead to a better amalgamation and a better partnership for the commercial startups to sort of collaborate with farmers. So at Acre Foods, when we started 2 years ago, the primary goal was to bridge the gap. I mean, to cut the middlemen and to do a direct trade between the farmers and the consumers we cater to, with the help of we being at the centerpiece of providing the value for both ends. And we have so far impacted the lives of more than 3,000 farmers in last two years. Now we are at the B2B side, where we cater to Subway, Swiggy, Fuzzy Cafe, and Zomato sort of brands, where we procure the fresh goods directly from the farmers and deliver it to these brands. We have seen this as one challenge which is into the space to bridge the gap. And more initiatives from the government. I think we are very fortunate to receive such an open-minded and a government which has the foresight what they want to achieve in next 20 years, and especially what they want to change than what they want to crib about, right? So I think the challenges are still ahead in front of us, but what sort of helps us is the dialogue which we are at, the platform which we are at, where all of us want to work together, form those partnerships, use the data and technology to come out of it and sort of solve them.
Thank you, Suraj. I mean, may I request Mr. Ranjan from NAB Ventures to briefly speak from NABARD and NAB Ventures perspective for startups, please.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Jagdish ji, and thank you, Professor Neeru, Shivam, and the entire Pusha Krishi Incubator team. And Professor Ramesh Chand sir, it's been a pleasure to kind of hear your insightful data and words of wisdom on Indian Agri. Pretty interesting. So without much ado, I would like to quickly talk about NAB Ventures, what we are doing. We are a venture growth equity fund backed by NABARD, and we are focused on 4 buckets primarily: agri-tech, food tech, rural agri-fintech, and the last one is rural, wherein we are looking at edu-tech, health tech, and rural e-commerce primarily. We are looking to raise a 500 crore fund with a green shoe of another 700. We are, including commitments and LOI, we are at 53%, so 265 crore. And we have invested in 4 startups, all promising ones, I can say with much confidence, and all doing very well. I'll talk about them as well. So in terms of the way we see Indian agri-food ecosystem, if you will, we are seeing that it is like a barbell of sorts when it comes to funding. So too many startups on the front end, consumer side, have gotten funding, and very little on the agri input sides, right? So these are the 2 broad ends of the spectrum. Anything in between, which is smart farming, farming as a service, or quality assessment, all of those are still struggling. So I think there is a lot of potential in core agri-tech startups. That's where institutions like Pusha Krishi Incubator and other incubators come into play and become very important, because a lot of startups, especially the tech-enabled startups, are going to transform Indian agriculture from its supply side challenges, starting from soil degradation to overuse of fertilizers, right up to maintaining quality, food wastage, which sort of touched upon. So we have taken that mandate on ourselves to kind of back some of the quality agri-tech startups, food tech startups, and kind of see that in our own limited way we are able to kind of encourage or nudge these startups towards creating change in the Indian agri-food ecosystem. Quickly, I'll touch upon I'll just put one single slide with your permission, which will kind of tell you that where we have kind of just one second. So this is where we have put money. We have invested in Satyukt, which is an agri satellite data analytics company. It does near real-time root zone soil moisture up to a depth of 1 meter. No other startup in India has that capability. We have invested in Unnati, which is agri inputs and agri output selling platform. So both ends of the agri-food value chain it covers. We have invested in Krishi Tantra, which is a rapid soil testing platform, one of its kind. There is no competitor, which does soil testing at any point in time in 30 minutes in any field. And last is Jai Kisan, which cuts across the entire agri-tech ecosystem in terms of being the category leading agri-rural fintech provider, right? So we are looking actively at agri input side, precision agriculture, farm mechanization. No models are coming up which are bankable or sustainable, smart logistics and storage, and last one being digital kind of platforms for agri commodity trading marketplaces or B2B, D2C agri produce distribution. So I must say that we have looked at more than 500 startups since we started in April 2019, and we have invested in only 4. Fifth is in the works, and our innings have just started. I think you will hear about us this year very, very actively. Ever since the pandemic started, since August, we have put money in 4 startups. This year, first 6 months, we intend to do 6 more. So that's the thing that I would like to leave you with. So we are happy to interact with startups, and happy to hear more from all incubators.
Thank you, Ranjanji. I know there are at least 100 startups in this audience who are waiting to reach out to you. Okay, so we'll be more than happy to facilitate you. Happy to let know that Satyukt was incubated at Pusa Incubator too. It's been a child of Dr. Neeru Bhushan. Okay.
Even I would like to take that Krishi Tantra is also with us.
Has been incubated.
In fact, under RKY Raftar, they were being incubated at US Dharwad. So now for the technical things, so they are also incubated with us. So out of 4, 50% is from us.
Thank you, ma'am.
May now request Kaushendraji to share a little bit of his experience. He's a person who's been on the streets with the farmer, with the vegetable vendors, also known as Vegetable Wala. I want to ask you a very different question is, what joy did you get at the end of this? We'll speak about the pains later. Kya khushi mila aapko is khel mein?
First of all, a great thanks to Neeru ma'am and her team. And it's always a great experience to listen to Ramesh Chand sir. I still remember like 4 years back, our team and BMGF were doing some projects and we went to Niti Aayog, and he very bluntly said, we don't want government scientists in this at the ground because we want to change the extension system at the grassroots level. We all know. So always pleasure to hear like he's always very clear with the data and what he actually wants. So very nice to listen to you, sir, and all the points I noted down, and I concur with your points. And Jagdish ji, regarding the question, like अपने घर में काम करने में कभी शर्म नहीं होती है और कभी दुख और सुख की बात नहीं होती है. This is my home. Bihar is my home, and it's my duty. I born and brought up over here, and I am a product of government system. And government system is public money. And so it's my duty to pay back to my society, my community, my estate. So I am doing that. And at the end of the day, I am always very satisfied and happy, and always take pleasure and pride in saying that we are working with more than 50,000 farmers. And in last 12, 13 years of our existence over here, we have made certain changes which were not possible earlier, like now Bihar grows broccoli, strawberry, sweet corn, and thanks to the wonderful team of ICR also, who are always helping us, providing all those knowledge things, input, technical inputs. And in last 1 year, when a lot of people were coming back and returning to Bihar in 2020 after COVID-19, and we took it as a challenge. And with the support of ICR and few of our donors, we started giving vegetable kits to all those people who have returned. And I would like to show a picture. This strawberry is cultivated by one of the migrant farmers, still being cultivated. You can see how with the support of ICR we have scaled down the technology. जब भी स्ट्रॉबेरी की बात होती है तो हम लोग डर जाते हैं पहले कि एक मल्चिंग होगा, ड्रिप आएगा, हाई फाई टेक्नोलॉजी आएगा, 5 लाख का इन्वेस्टमेंट आएगा, 2 एकड़ फार्म होगा, 5 हेक्टेयर ये होगा. मतलब ताम झाम में कहता हूँ कि जिस तरह की शादियां होती है ना, उस तरह का बैंड बाजा बारात होगा, तब स्ट्रॉबेरी हाई वैल्यू फार्मिंग होगी. What we did with this, with the support of ICR scientists, again I am insisting on that, with the support of ICR scientists, that media and everybody always say, scientists are not working. So I am insisting on that and emphasizing on that. With their support, we are doing in 7 districts. 7 districts, we are doing this. And not a single farmer's crop have failed in those 7 districts. With 400 farmers, we are experimenting and we are successfully doing it. So I just share this screen for this, and these kind of things is giving pleasure and happiness at the end of the day. Our farmers can and ready to change, provided if we are bringing them the technology, we are bringing them innovation which could be replicable, which they can adopt. डराने वाली बात नहीं है. पहले फोन होता था, हाईफाई मोबाइल होता था, आज सबके पास मोबाइल है. बिकॉज उनके पास जो मोबाइल पहुंचा वो डराने वाली बात के साथ नहीं पहुंचा, बड़ा इजी वे में what they can do with that. And with this, I also like to change one more slide. I think I was going through last 2 agriculture meet and purpose of this hackathon and all. And since working at the grassroots level, the changes and trends, in addition to what Professor Amit Chand sir already highlighted, the most disruptive change, mind it, it's going to be one nation, one ration card. It is going to be the most disruptive change for agriculture and food supply chain. Though it is not looking like it is a agriculture policy, but it is going to be one of the most disruptive policy change that we are going to witness in next 5-10 years. Till date, we are having seasonal migration. Now the next decade is going to be of the permanent migration. Migration with the family. And this is going to be put huge strain on labor availability in the villages. And whosoever are planning a startup in farm mechanization, this is the time to get into, because the next decade is going to be huge farm mechanization investment and a startup in that. Second, safe and healthy food. I always wonder,
I'm sorry to keep interrupting you for managing a little bit of time, which is my responsibility. But thanks for permitting me that Zyati. Pleasure is enjoyed, it is experienced. You cannot speak of it, but I just wanted to trigger you to talk about it. Okay, thank you so much.
Zyati, I did not talk about it. Sorry. Thanks for highlighting. If I really take my words back.
Not at all. Yeah. Please, thank you so much. Can I now request Venki to speak a little words? Venki is a very popular blogger. He writes about the agri-startup industry. And not only he is brutal, he's also multidimensional in the sense that he can look at 2 different perspectives and write at it in the same breath. Venki, you often write about skin in the game, which is something that startups must have. And those who are stakeholders who are trying to work with them, be it investors, be it academic institutions. Skin in the game is something that we need to understand. I wish that you speak a few sentences about skin in the game, please.
Sure. Just before I start, thank you to Dr. Neeru, ma'am. It's an honor to be in this forum amidst industry luminaries like Professor Ramesh Chand, Sagar Kaushik. I've heard many of your lectures and it's such an honor to be sharing the dais here. Coming to a question, Jagdish, Professor Ramesh Chand talked about how the roads are evolving, right? So automatically when roads are evolving, the worst reckless driver is always the one who will never survive to drive more. And that is because through evolution, he automatically, he gets killed in the accident. And the next time the next driver comes in is always a safer driver. So this skin in the game is a certain principle that I see pretty much in human systems and natural systems. So, and unlike other people who are in this panel who are talking about technology, my journey has been in a sort of a reverse way. I was in a startup. I led products in an agri input sector side, and pretty much after hitting all the check boxes in terms of a success, I realized that the fundamental ground rules haven't changed, and so it has been my journey to actually step out from that a technology box and really step back and really look at what is it that really is happening. And that is where I am noticing in the interactions I've had with farmers that they intuitively understand skin in the game. You know, skin in the game, they may not relate to it as a concept, but intuitively, I think they understand skin in the game, and which is primarily in terms of, you know, do I really do I not just earn from the benefits that I am partnering with, but do I also take the risk involved in whatever I'm in collaborating with? So to me, every startups today, you know, whether they are partnering with farmers or whether they're partnering with retailers, the fundamental question boils down to, in the relationship, are you not just sharing the benefits, but are you also sharing the risk? I think that is the essence of skin in the game. Jagdish, I'm not able to hear you.
Yeah, thank you, Venki.
Okay.
Okay, that's short and sweet. I know a lot of questions are pouring in. Okay, but I'd really like to take 1 minute from each of you people and say one key message to startups. Back in the same circle, Kaushik sir, your senior advice to us, startups. Kaushik sir, you need to unmute yourself.
So I will just say 3 sentences that first of all, we come from the input industry, and input industry will play really exciting, excellent role, which is beyond inputs. Sometimes the pesticide people are seen just as pesticide. Is no. I think we do a lot of capacity building, capability buildings with regard to the aggregation and other technology that we provide. So you should know that we are actually a good partner to really work with the startups. So that is one area. And second is the get into the details of the data, get into the software part of it, and not just on the logistics. I think we focus too much on the logistic part, and everybody then focus on the logistics part. But be more diversified in your approach in the value chain. That's all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. That was very sharply put. Ranjan sir, your quick input to startups.
I would say get your product or service market fit right, and also keep an eye on the money in terms of generating sustainable revenue models. That's very important for you to attract venture capital or venture growth money. That's thank you.
Brilliant. Suraj, आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
Yes. I just as a representative of startups, I think one is we need to start start using the data quite heavily in terms of solutions we are building to start building the verticals, right? Today,
Suraj, I think we are losing you. Maybe you can take a break for a moment.
And just
yeah, maybe you can take a brief break. I will request Kaushalendra ji to speak. We'll come back to you.
Is it better?
Yes, go ahead. Can you continue? Suraj, I'll ask you to log out and come in again. Till then, I'll just request Kaushalendra to speak, please. Kaushalendra ji?
Yes, is my audio?
Just take a minute. Not yet, please. Kaushalendra ji?
Hi.
You're not audible, Kaushalendra ji. That's okay.
No, no audible?
No, not now. You're audible. Please.
Okay, great. Okay. So I was talking about changes and trends that we are witnessing in the whole system, and which is going to be drive the next 5-10 years of the ecosystem, especially entrepreneurship and startups. One I already talked about is one nation, one ration card, how this is going to change. Another is the rise of demand for safe and healthy food. I'm trying to put a context to this.
Go ahead.
Like we are seeing, if you go to other part of the world, European country or America or Australia or other part of the world, you are pretty much sure about the food that you are eating. Safety and quality. But when it comes to India, it's not happening. There is a huge mistrust, big mistrust, big gap. Do the survey, like we did the survey and we found like almost 90% people are not trusting the food that they are buying. Food, I mean to say food, processed food, not raw food, processed food. I think there is a huge opportunity which points out a huge opportunity which is available. And in last 1 year, in Google search, healthy food were always above 50%. Like if Akshay Kumar, if you can think of Akshay Kumar is more searched word in India, 100%, and healthy food is always 50% since the COVID started. And still it is maintaining that 50% trend. And sometimes it also reached 100%. The next decade, especially all those people like us and who are kids like 10 years, 15 years of age, who have experienced this Corona experience, they are going to drive this change of safe and healthy food. And next is, I would like to add to it, the wonderful things that mobile technology has done to our India is, now I always say this to even my farmers and my vendors. What Akshay Kumar is thinking, what Kareena Kapoor is thinking, what our PM is thinking, what our CM is thinking and doing, my Ram Kumar, my Lakshman Kumar, who is doing plowing in the field, who is selling vegetable, is also thinking, also wants to do this same. That has been changed. Now there are like earlier I am a student of management, so we used to have like there is a demand, something which is driven by the middle class society. No. Now there is a huge demand that is going to be driven by the bottom of the pyramid society, who have access to these informations which they consider, okay, Kareena Kapoor agar शादी कर रही है तो ये लहंगा पहनिए तो I also want. Okay, PM मोदी के रिसेप्शन में PM मोदी के यहाँ जब शिष्ट मंडल आया अमेरिका से तो वहां ढोकला खाया गया इस तरीके का. I also want that ढोकला on my plate. That change has come, and we must realize this is going to drive the whole food sector. And food and agriculture, I always say both are hugely correlated. And again, I am saying most of the time what I am seeing, especially in food based startup, I am highlighting this food startups, they are hugely focusing on big metros. Stop doing that. I am asking, please take a survey of villages in last 5 months, 5 years. What are the changes that have come in every villages? Now there is in every villages you will find there are outlet food, processed food. There are outlet food meal. There are outlet where you can have a number of processed food. So there is a huge requirement. Can we have food chains, especially catering to the block level towns, panchayat level villages? That is going to be huge. Major driven of the economy. Economy will be driven by them.
Thank you, Kausthanji, for identifying these changes and trends that are happening. I mean, they are bang on. And I'm sure people are listening keenly to them. Suraj, can you take a minute?
Yes, am I audible?
Yeah, please.
Yes. So I think for all the startups, we need to start crunching and start using the heavy amount of data while building the solutions we are building, and build verticals. So we are moving from horizontals to verticals change in this decade, as per me. Second is, as Indian economy and Indian landscape is very, very unique to India, I would recommend that we find more indigenous ways to solve the problems we are trying to solve in each of our domain. And third is that we all need to start working in a collaboration in terms of take a look here and there and see what all startups are there, and you can connect with them to sort of build a 360 end-to-end solution. So those are the three suggestions or recommendations I would say.
Brilliant, Suraj. Thank you so much. I can just see the clock racing away even as this one, and I'm doing the, what should I say, important job of cutting all of you short. Okay, so there are questions pouring in, and I'd like to take one question that's come in, which is really, how can we upgrade our primary agriculture credit cooperative societies to be more farmer-centric, to be far more efficient in lifting this one? Any panel member, all of you have been at villages and you know the packs.
I can talk about what is happening in primary agriculture society from the case of Telangana and Andhra, AP primarily. So, Raitu Bazaar and Raitu Kendra experiments are happening where input services are being aggregated, and the PACS are becoming one integrated unit for offering a one-stop shop to provide inputs there. So this is one trend that is right now happening primarily in the Telangana space. So this is one possible way of evolution. There are some commentators who also talked about it. But I think that is one possibility that could really be explored in terms of aggregating the various input players in a certain way, with the PACS being the central node, because PACS has the density to reach to the farthermost farmer there. So that kind of network setting the hubs and nodes for that is, I think, is very, very critical right now.
I would like to add that more digitized packs would be far more important. In the case of Jai Kisan, which is our agri-rural startup, they increasingly treat banks and NBFCs as dark pools of capital and kind of do the front ending in terms of lending to actual FPOs, farmers, dealers, invoice discounting, all of that. So I think going forward, a primary agriculture credit society need to be much more quickly available in terms of reach to the farmers, FPOs, and their networks. So digitalization and increasingly converting their offering into more of a fintech offering, or relying on another fintech player, that would be a game changer for them in terms of what they are not good at in terms of marketing, selling, reaching out to customers. They can do it in a jiffy through fintech platforms, either their own or third party.
Brilliant, sir. There's one more question coming in about FPOs. How can we strengthen them? What's the government doing about it? And how are they helping in increasing farmers' revenue? Anyone would like to take a look at that question? Maybe Ramesh Chandra sir, we would like to have the policy perspective towards FPOs. You would need to unmute yourself, sir.
Yeah, thank you. No, we are now realizing that if we have to work with small and marginal farmers who constituted nearly 86% in 15-16 and 20% bigger, then we have to do something for organization of farmers. That can come through self-help group, that can come through FPO, that can come through cooperatives, and already Government of India has come out with the scheme of Atmanirbhar Bharat, under which there is a target of promoting 10,000 farm producer organization in the next 5 years. But I feel that 10,000 is not a big number for a country like India, where we have nearly 10 crore functional farmers or 13-14 crore total farmers. We need much more. We need multiple approach. So what I suggest sometime to people here in ministry is that let center work heavily on FPO and encourage state to work more heavily on cooperatives, because cooperatives are under state, whereas FPO center can promote, states can promote, but major responsibility center should take. So now there is this realization that if we want participation of small and marginal farmer in the economic change process, they need to be provide some bargaining strength, some scale advantage, and FPO and self-help group and cooperatives are ideally suited for that. Jagdish, if there is 1 minute, I just want to add on agri startup, since many of you are working on agri startup. On 15th August, I launched one startup platform of Samunnati. So there I delivered a speech where I looked at agri startup differently. So some of you may be interested in my perspective, like the biggest one which I said there is that startup will bring new non-agriculture sciences to agriculture. Agriculture scientists are still saddled with agronomy, entomology, kind of things, which are not bringing real change. Today, agriculture require more of space technology, digital technology, artificial intelligence, and other kind of sciences, which the dedicated and motivated people are bringing through agri startup. So those of you who are interested, maybe you will get that how I look at role of agri startup in future development of agriculture. May see to my speech, which is there on the site of Samunnati. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. It's so encouraging to listen to you. Kaushik, sir, anything to add here?
Well, yeah, I will like to add that, first of all, we are absolutely sold on this FPO concept. And first, to internalize the concept within UPL, we have already started to facilitate formation of an FPO in Yavatmal district. So, and we want to really partner with the local NGO which is doing it. And at every step, we want to understand that what challenges they are facing. So first of all, we want to internalize within the organization the challenges. We have recruited the 2 or 3 people who have deep sense of experience already. So I think we know that there is a sense of responsibility that once we understand the concept, then from 1 to perhaps, then we are in a better position to support. Sure. Second thing which I want to also mention is that I used to be, outside in Southeast Asia for a few years. And there is another terminology for FPOs in Malaysia and all. When I visited, I was actually told, "Hey, sir, aapke product we know everything. You can only help us. Do you have somebody from HR who can come and train our people on the human resource services? Can there be somebody from your CFO, the finance department can come and teach us about this accounting and the whole process of, the managing the accounts, etc." So I think we have to see as an input company, the FPO is perhaps they know about use of our input anyhow. So I think there are other services which are also relevant for the SPOs. So these are some of the experiments we are also doing.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. There are a lot of questions, and hence I think between the last event and this, what we have put in a format is really to look at all these questions, vet it and answer them separately, also reward the intelligent questions. Given the paucity of time, I'm going to restrict the number of questions on which we'll take. One more question has come, which is about really use of blockchain, IoT and traceability for supply chains. Venki, you worked on a traceability system. So quickly, first I'll ask you to begin on traceability and IoT blockchain solutions for value chains.
Sure. So today, largely traceability systems, while they have experiments have been doing in the farm to fork side, I have personally seen a lot of success in the input side as well, where primarily it is focusing on how do you manage the working capital, because most of the agri input products are being sold on credit. So that is one area that is really working well and delivering economic returns as well. The most common use case of traceability, which is around food safety, I still think it is untapped there, and there are a lot of challenges in really making it work, because while we have the technology, the incentives are not yet really aligned, because today people are not really willing to pay, to a certain extent for a traced food. And so I think that is one area that is there. So with respect to blockchain, while there are, the shared ledger and the infrastructure is primarily evolving, I still don't think we have yet to come closer to really arriving at solving the particular problems in the ground level there. So it is still early stages and experimental stages there. And and one advice I would give to startups who are primarily in blockchain is, in every other domain there is technology and there is domain. And in other industries, if you know the technology far deeper, you can still solve through the problems. But the balance of scales is opposite in the case of agriculture. So even if you have a fairly functional technology but a deep domain knowledge, that really helps. And that's what I've seen from my experience. And that's the word of advice I would give to blockchain startups.
Thank you, Venki. I know this also builds on to Kaushlendraji. Again, for lack of time, I will not let him, share his thoughts, but I'll summarize on his behalf, and only if I've not got it to add, which is both the one ration card, one person across the nation is a traceability in its own self. And he spoke of food safety, which needs traceability. So I think this is what he was hinting at without so much word being prompted. Okay. There's also a question which I want to pass on to Mr. Ranjan. Is really about the extension system, where we still haven't seen digitized farm extension services. How are you seeing the space evolve, sir?
So very quickly, in US, there are platforms like Trimble and all, which do a very good job in terms of digital extension systems with feet on the ground. So that is what is lacking in India today, and that's a white space or gap, if you call it, in the Indian agri-food ecosystem or agri-tech ecosystem, that the service providers, the extension guys on the ground, are not digital and are not well connected with other systems which are tracking, say, soil moisture or food demand and stuff like that. So I think there is a lot of space, especially in farming as a service startups. They have kind of deployed some of these kind of platforms or people with digital capabilities on the ground. I can talk about, let's say, now you have AI Bono doing it. You have Gourmet Garden. You have Clover, Absolute Foods, who are looking at vertical farming also. So guys like these, they are better placed to kind of deploy such systems in terms of smart agri extension. However, I must add that some of these startups have challenges in terms of scale and reaching out to farmers at large. So agri-tech just touches 10% of the Indian farming population. 90% does not have access to it. So we need to kind of encourage more of frugal innovations and mass adoption, and that's where I think a lot of government support is also required to kind of enable or tech enable the agri extension workers. So it would be a mix of either PPP, public-private partnership, or government or private initiatives mostly. So all sorts of things you will see coming up over the next 5 to 10 years for sure. But that's a space which certainly is going a begging. Cropin and all have tried it, but nobody has a perfect solution there, touching the small and marginal farmers, which are 85% of the population. I just wanted to put a data point that the actual core agri-tech has gotten funding since 2012 of only 25% out of the $700 million which has gone into agri-tech. Rest 75% has gone into B2B, B2C front end, or 8% including in e-commerce for agri inputs. The actual core agri-tech, which uses AI, ML, blockchain, big data, IoT, all of that, is struggling big time. On a standalone basis, they cannot survive. So they need actually pulls from the large players, let's say a Lycius, a Fresh to Home, or a Ninja Cart. they need to make use of these services to make these guys viable. That's the thought I want to leave you with.
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, how much ever I like, the clock keeps ticking away and puts all of us on our toes. The last thing I want to say before I hand over to Dr. Bhushan is one, thank you to all panel members, and a note that, see, this country does not have a shortage of ideas. We have no shortage of skilled or talented manpower. We don't have any shortage of intellectual abilities. We don't have a shortage of finance. We were missing a magic of collaboration. And I think we have begun on the right note. Thank you very much, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, Jagdishji. I think this is a time for me to propose a formal vote of thanks. And first of all, on behalf of ICR IRI and myself, I would like to extend a sincere thanks to Sir, Professor Ramesh Chandji. Sir, I'm really, it is always a pleasure for me to learn from you, to listen to you. And very rightly, you have mentioned that we need the non-agriculture startups or the skill set in the agriculture domain. So I would like to share with you that even our data says that 82% founders in the startup founders are from non-agriculture background. And so it is a welcome step that we are getting the skill set from the non-agriculture background, but at the same time, because the point came that they should also have the deep domain knowledge. That is also required. That's the challenge that we are facing, that they are very good in their skill set, but at the same time, we are providing this domain knowledge. So that's the bridge, that's the gap that we are trying to fill up as an incubator based in the agriculture research system. So thank you very much, sir, for highlighting some of the very crucial points that I really like the way that you have explained and made this session very lively and put the very, very crucial and the difficult task very easy. So it's really very easy for us to understand some of the things, especially the regulatory dynamics, as well as the market efficiency in different ways. And thank you once again, my sincere thanks to you, sir. And Mr. Kaushik, it is always a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks, all the thanks is due to you, and you could take out time from your busy schedule. I really like the way that you put up that the innovation based on the aspirational model on full value chain. And especially the data is the oil, new currency in today's world. And we should, the startup should get the data in details, and they should also partner with the startup. So like the Jagdish has mentioned very rightly, the collaboration, and I welcome that you are saying that you are willing to partner with the startup, and we are always seeing you to come forward and to help us. Thank you for being with us. And special thanks to Mr. Venki for giving us the skin in the game, especially the principle and the emphasizing the relationship and sharing the benefits and the risk, because always we would like to share the benefits. But it is always that if you want to make a viable startup ecosystem, so then the benefits and the shares risk is equally important. So startups should learn to share the risk as well. So that's very important insight has come from him. And Mr. Ranjan, I welcome you here for that, and really very thanks to you that 50% of your code is coming from us, and thank you for helping them and giving the word of advice, like get your product market fit, and you should work on the revenue model. So that's very, very important for the startups. Yes, we know that there are a lot of startups, there are a lot of potential in agri-tech, but they need to place well, and they have to have the deep domain knowledge. So that's what we are seeing, and we are hoping that the collaboration will make them happen. And yes, it is always when we also last year, I think at the scheme level, we evaluate around 7,000 startup applications. So most of them are on B2B and B2C. And really we were struggling very hard to see hardcore input-based startups. So definitely there is a huge scope for that. And I hope that we would like to see some of the very good startup in this space also. And Kaushlendra, it is always a pleasure to be with you. And it is that you are always very interesting that you have mentioned and you have highlighted one nation, one ration card will be the most disruptive change, and giving the startups that farm mechanization is the new space where you can work hard. And especially in the COVID scenario, because COVID has given us a thought, and or it has created a situation that we have to rework, redesign, and reinvent our technologies so that we could face these new challenges. And demand of safe and healthy food is definitely is on the cards. So with these few words, once again, and Jagdish ji, my special thanks to you for conducting this session very beautifully and making it very lively and interactive. Last but not the least, from my side, Suraj, because this startup is from my cohort, so I took advantage of this to give this opportunity to him. But he did justice. I'm very happy to learn from you that we should have the Indianized way to solve the problem, and we also believe in collaboration and grow together. So that's how he has also internalized that theory. Well, friends, this is the kind of events that cannot happen overnight. The wheels start rolling weeks ago. It requires planning and coordination and bird eye view from the details we have been formulating. I'm very fortunate that I'm being backed by the team of very motivated and dedicated colleagues. So thanks to PUSA team and the IRI colleagues. Dr. Indramani is also here. So all my co-PIs and my director, and especially to the ministry for giving us a chance to organize this hackathon, and to all the participants who have been here. So I would like, once again, I would like to place my hearty thanks to all the participants, and because of whom we made this possible to launch this Agri India Hackathon at the right junction, when we need to nurture agri startups the most and head towards modern technology oriented agriculture. So we believe in collaborative impact, and this event, I hope, will bring together the best minds of the country and help us build a pipeline of innovators and change makers in the agriculture ecosystem. Thank you all of you for being with us. Thank you
so much, Dr. Neeru. I would just want to quickly mention about the Agri India Smart Voices winners that we have had in today's session. So on the screen, we have Krishnamurthy R, who had asked a question, how can we improve food traceability in supply chain, as the winner of the Agri India Smart Voices. Then we have Karthik. And so all these winners and their questions will be appropriately raised on our social media platform. And we would like the community to comment and give their insights on these particular topics.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Congratulations to all the winners. And once again, from the team PUSA, I would like to be grateful and say thanks to all the panelists here with their incredible insights into agriculture domain and sharing with us their years of experience at the ground level. And I think this would help us nudge the ecosystem to the right direction. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Priyanka, in fact, if you can invite everybody for the next Agri India meet. So let me take this opportunity. So I'll request all the participants to participate for the next Agri India meet, which is for the success stories of the startups which are being incubated under RK Raftar scheme. And in fact, we would like to listen from them how they can build this Atmanirbhar Bharat. So thank you very much. Once again, I thank you to all.
Yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.